So there's this movie coming out in a few weeks. It's called Michael. You've probably seen the trailers. Jaffer Jackson looks exactly like his uncle. The dancing is spot on, and the hype in the US is through the roof. But here's what they aren't telling you. This movie almost didn't happen. Well, at least not this version. See, late in 2025, the production hit a brick wall. A legal one. It turns out the estate's lawyers forgot to read their own paperwork from 30 years ago. They had already filmed this massive, dark sequence about the 1993 allegations. We're talking police raids at Neverland and investigators and the whole thing. Then someone found a tiny clause in the Jordan Chandler settlement from 1994. It basically said, you can never show this kid in a movie. Ever. The panic was real. They had to scrap the entire third act. 22 days of reshoots, $15 million down the drain, and a complete rewrite of history. All because of a legal time bomb nobody saw coming. Today, we're looking at the money, the censorship, and why the Jackson family is currently tearing itself apart behind the scenes. To understand why that clause was such a disaster, we have to look at what they were actually filming before the lawyers killed it. I've been digging through the old 1993 court filings, and the original script for this movie was reportedly visceral. It wasn't just a mention of the allegations. It was a deep dive into the discovery phase. There was a whole sequence planned around Anthony Pellicano, the infamous Hollywood private investigator who worked for Michael. In the real 90s, Pellicano was like a ghost. He was allegedly wiretapping phones and digging up dirt on anyone who crossed the Jacksons. The movie was going to show this dark side of Michael's defense. The illegal wiretaps, the intimidation, and the pure Hollywood grit. But when that Jordan Chandler clause surfaced, all of that became toxic legally. If they showed the raids or the settlement process, they risked a massive lawsuit from the Chandler family that could have frozen the entire movie's release. So they didn't just cut a character. They cut the most grounded and realistic part of the story. They traded the truth for a $15 million safety net. But why was the estate so terrified of that 1994 clause? It's because the original 1993 investigation wasn't just about Michael. It was about his fixer. Anthony Pellicano, the man Michael hired to handle the crisis, was a real-life Hollywood villain. Years later, Pellicano was actually sent to prison for illegal wiretapping and racketeering. The original version of the movie reportedly showed Pellicano using shady tactics to gather intel on the Chandler family. By including that in the film, the estate would have been admitting that Michael's defense team used illegal methods to win. The executors couldn't let that stay in the script. It didn't just look bad for Michael. It looked bad for the estate's lawyers, who are still running the show today. So, they paid $15 million to wipe Pellicano's ghost out of the movie. They chose a clean story over a complicated truth. $15 million is a lot of money to lose because you forgot to check a contract. But here's the thing about the Jackson estate. They don't really lose money. Since the executors John Branca and John McClane were the ones who made the mistake, the estate had to pay for the reshoots. But check this out. Reports are coming in that by saving the movie with that cash, the estate actually bought a bigger piece of the film's profits. It's genius in a dark way. You make a massive mistake, and you fix it with the dead artist's money, and then you own more of the movie that's designed to fix his reputation. While this was happening, the catalog war finally ended. Katherine Jackson, Michael's mom, was in court trying to stop them from selling half of Michael's songs to Sony for $600 million. She said Michael told her never to sell the crown jewels, but the court basically told her, too bad. The judges ruled that the executors have the power to sell whatever they want. The crown jewels are gone. Sony owns the hits, and the family is officially sidelined. Now, let's look at the actual forensics of this money, because this is where things start to get really messy. In the US legal system, being an executor isn't a charity. Branca and McClane get a percentage. Now the exact number is a guarded secret, but it's widely reported to be around 10%. Let's do the math on that $600 million Sony deal. That is $60 million, going straight to the executors as a fee. $60 million. To put that in perspective, the Jackson kids and Katherine have to file petitions for their allowances just to buy houses or pay for travel. The executors are essentially making more from a single afternoon's paperwork than the actual family makes in years. This is exactly why Paris Jackson is losing her mind in court right now. She's seeing the family's inheritance being chipped away by massive management fees and legal bonuses. In their latest filing, The executors literally asked for an extra $100,000 just for the costs of fighting Paris in court. They are using Michael's money to pay for the lawyers who are arguing against Michael's daughter. You can't make this stuff up. Usually the kids stay quiet. Not this time. Just a few days ago, early April 2026, Paris filed a fresh legal complaint, and it is brutal. She's accusing the executors of using her father's own money to pay for PR attacks against her. She says every time she asks where the money is going or why the legal fees are so high, they mock her. She literally said in court that they treat her like a kid. One of the estate's lawyers allegedly described her as strutting into a court hearing. Paris called that out for being sexist and patronizing. And honestly, she's right. The executors fired back and called themselves the grown-ups. They said Paris has already received $65 million, so she should basically shut up and be grateful. But Paris isn't backing down. She wants to see the books. She wants to know why, while she's strutting into court, the executors are taking home over $10 million a year in compensation, while the family legacy is being sold off piece by piece. So, when you go to the theater on April 24th, what are you actually seeing? You're seeing the brand-safe Michael. And this isn't the first time Hollywood has done this. We saw it with Bohemian Rhapsody, where they ignored the darker parts of Freddie Mercury's life. We saw it with the Elvis movie. But with Michael, the stakes are billions of dollars higher. Because of that $15 million reshoot, the whole ending of the movie was changed. Instead of the trials and the darkness of the 90s, the movie now ends at the peak of the bad tour. It's a celebration. It's high energy. It's safe. What that really means is they've taken 30% of the dark stuff they cut, and they're supposedly saving it for sequels. They want to see if this clean version makes $1 billion first. If it does, they'll sell you the controversial stuff in 2027. It's not a biopic anymore. It's an IPO. It's an attempt to turn a complicated human being into a clean and profitable digital asset. Look, Michael Jackson was a human being, a complicated one. But in 2026, he's a line item on a Sony spreadsheet. Between the reshoots and the catalog sales and the executors fighting his kids in court, the truth isn't really the priority here. Profit is. I want to know what you guys think. Is the estate protecting him? Or are they just protecting the paycheck? And do you think the reshoots were a mistake or a calculated move to own more of the film? Let me know in the comments. We're going to be all over the court rulings as we get closer to the premiere. So if you're into these deep dives, like the video and subscribe to the channel. Catch you in the next one.